and we'll go from there. Hey everyone, Cory from aquariumcoop.com with Gianne from Inglorious Bettas. If you don't know our YouTube channel, you probably should. It talks about bettas and other stuffs like that. But today we're going to talk about planted aquariums, kind of doing it on the cheap. You know, she just happened to be in town, so this is like isn't her expertise or anything like that. But I said, you know what? If you're in town, let's have you come by. She was going to come by regardless and just check out the studio and the tanks and all that kind of stuff. And I said, oh, well, your payment is you have to be on the show.
It's pretty awesome, like everything that's going on over there. It's crazy.
So, what do we got going on? First, if you're ordering plants, stuff like that, know that it is wicked cold around the country. We'll probably be putting heat packs, that kind of stuff. And then my shipping team has already been in contact with me this morning going, hey, we probably shouldn't ship because tomorrow is no mail for people. And then Monday is also Christmas. There's no mail. So if you order any type of live good today or yesterday, it won't ship till Tuesday or Wednesday at this point. And that's just, we want to make sure it's not sitting in the mail forever. So easy enough, you know. We do have a sale, I think, going on right now on catappa leaves and, choya wood and what's the other thing? There's another thing on sale. It went out in the newsletter. My brain, I was planning all the sales for Christmas. And so now my brain has replaced what's on sale with what's going to be on sale. It's choya wood and I literally can't think of it. So yeah, you don't know. So it's, you know, it is what it is. But there will be a Christmas only sale, like that day only. It's already on the website. It's not, the deals aren't there, so you don't know how much stuff's going to cost, but you can see all the items. So it's kind of a little teaser, like, oh man, maybe they're going to pay me to take this. I doubt it. But when it comes to cheap plants, I think, and I can speak to this because I know you're part of the clubs and stuff like that. I think local clubs are the place for the cheapest plants.
Definitely.
Yeah. You've got what? You've got, in California, you've got Scape the Club. Is that right? They meet at the same place?
Yes, we have BAPS, so the Bay Area Aquatic Plant Society.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you have that. And then isn't there also Scape, which is like Southern California Aquarist, I'm thinking plant enthusiasts. Yes, that is Scape. So you've got a bunch of plant clubs and stuff like that. And I know from my club, you sometimes can just get bags of plants. Like, here's all the trimmings for my tank, and it's like $2. You know, have you ever? Do you buy any plants from the auctions at all?
Oh, all the time.
Okay.
Like my tanks are just the accumulation of random grab bags of Java moss, Java fern, anubias, you know, all the easy stuff from the past 5 years. That's why my tanks are so full of plants, because I just grab them when nobody bids above $6.
Oh, so that's the threshold for you?
Yes, that's my break point.
Wait, so you'll pay $6 or you stop at $5?
I'll pay at $6.
Okay.
Yeah, and then occasionally $8 or $9 if it's like a really nice plant. But, you know, if you go to enough
And what is a really nice plant? Like, what in the Gianne world, is it just like that one looks super cool, or you know that like Bucephalandra is worth $9 to you? Is it like a certain type, or it's just that looks good?
It looks good. It has like multiple rhizomes and growing points. There's a good root system. There's nice leaves on it that aren't chewed up.
Okay.
You know, most of the plants at an auction are really high quality because, you know, they come from people that care about their tanks for the most part.
I would say that's true. And then you can also so the clubs are just a great source because there's going to be used equipment and all that kind of stuff. And if you're younger, a lot of times people will like help you. They're like, oh wait, this is your first aquarium? Here's the stuff that was in my garage, and
please take it.
You know, I did that yesterday. I sent a truck full of stuff. I'm like, here's my garage. Please drive it away. And you know, that stuff ends up trickling down the path of people who need that stuff. And, you know, stuff like that. But there's also sales on plants that you can buy. You know, like we'll do sales. Local PetSmarts, Petcos will do, you know, sales, that type of thing. So acquiring plants isn't that hard. But I think the best thing to do to save money when it comes to planted tanks is patience.
Yes.
Like if you buy, like let's say you bought like one grab bag of plants. The reality is after a year, probably every one of your aquariums is filled with plants. You know, so like Vallisneria, which is in the back of the 800 gallon, it's my favorite plant because you could buy just like one pot of it, and over time it will fill an entire aquarium. You know, right there we put in like 3 or 4 pots, and now, I mean, it doesn't look like it's that much, but it's probably a 4-foot by 18-inch section, which would be an entire 75-gallon. If you put it in the 75, it would look insane, but in an 800-gallon, it's like, yeah, you got a little bit. So it's going to take another 1.5 years for it to give the look of what that 75 would have in an 800-gallon. Or you can go expensive and be like, oh, I put 100 pots in there, and then you've spent $800 or something crazy. So yeah, I would say patience. How have you saved money? I know you save lots of money with bettas, but when it comes to plants, what's your, if you had one tip, or, and it could be the same thing, but what do you got? You know, is it, oh, I only use fish poop as fertilizer? Is it?
For me, it was the lights, I guess. I made my own lights using the LED 6500K strips. And I got, how did I do it? I got the gutter from Home Depot, and I spray painted it black, and then I put 4 strips of the 6500 LED, or 6500K LED lights.
Yeah.
And I just have those on all of my tanks, and it works out really well. The plants grow really well under that light.
Did you get them, like, did you order on Amazon, like the strip lights, or was it like
at
it
was
Lowe's,
like,
or?
Yeah, it was $10 for a 16-foot strip of LEDs.
Okay.
Yeah, it was really nice. So, like for my 20-gallon tank that's up above, I got the Stingray light. But for the other tanks in my fish room, I have a bunch of 10-gallon tanks that are situated end on.
Yep.
And so I just have those 4 hoods, and they're all seated on top of those tanks. And that's just saved a bunch of money for me. And all of my plants are really low light plants, and they just grow really well under that light. And then patience. Like you said, you can divide them after a while. You know, I'll take like my favorite is Pellia.
Okay, like Swasser tank,
Yeah, the
Pellia,
Swasser,
like,
yeah. That grows really well for me. And I just get a big ball. It turns into a big ball, and then I tear it apart and put it in another tank, and tear it apart, put it in another tank.
Yeah.
So.
Have you done any trading of plants or anything like that?
I tend to hoard all of them.
Oh, okay.
Well, because it's so good for fry. You know, all the fry get inside of the plants, and they're safe from the parents. And so with a lot of my killifish, I've gotten so busy now with teaching that they just lay their eggs in there, and the fry survive in there, which is this kind of permaculture, they call it, is a lot more common in European countries, where you just leave the parents in there, and they say the fry are a lot stronger. You don't get as many, but
I didn't realize that was like popular in Europe, because I just call that the lazy Cory way. I only breed in colonies, pretty much. Like, they're either gonna make it or they're not. That's what I call it. But I didn't realize that was more popular.
Yeah, all the killifish guys over there, that's what they do, you know. And so and if you really want the fry to grow up, sometimes if you see them, you can fish them out with a dropper. Yeah. And then put them in a different tank. But you really need a lot of plant cover for that to work. And by a lot of plant cover, it's a lot of plant cover.
Like, you can't, my metric is always, if I can't see the adults, fry will live.
Exactly.
If I can see the adults, there's probably not enough spaces for fry to hide.
Yeah, for me, I can't see into my tank, right? In order for that to work, you need ton, and my tanks are only 10-gallon tanks. They're very small, but you need tons of plant cover in order for that to work properly.
Yeah. So someone asked, what are some good low light plants that work for? Well, I'm going to say for you, because I've given my opinion like a million times. But so you've got these DIY lights. I'm wagering they're relatively low light, but I don't know that I've seen it. So I'm guessing that they're not like crazy super powerful.
Well, you saw them. No, you were at my...
Oh, were those all DIY?
Yeah, all those lights.
All
Did
right.
I make them so well you didn't know?
That's right. I didn't realize they were... I'll have to go back and watch the video now so that I can go, hold on, let me see
like I
it.
put aluminum foil on the back, and so they're pretty bright. But
all right.
Of course, what is it called? PAR or PAR rating?
Yeah.
I've never done that, so that I don't know.
Well, I'll have you ship one up and I'll test it. But
One of these huge 4-foot things.
That's right. Just ship it. It'll be worth it. In fact, it would be cheaper for me to build
$10 it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I could buy the supplies. And, but what plants? So we know you do Pellia. What else? What would you do if someone's asking, what's some low light hardy plants? What's your go-to? Or here's a better. Let's say your boyfriend or fiance or whatever wanted to set up a tank, but only he was allowed to set it up. What would you recommend plant-wise?
So, Anubias, Pellia. What else do I use? Because all my plants, if they don't survive with me, then they're high tech. Hornwort. I like guppy grass. Crypts. If you have substrate, most of my tanks don't have substrate, and so I have them in pots actually. And the pots work really well. The vowels work. Sagittarius. I love Sagittarius. I had a tank that filled up and created a mat after 2 or 3 years, you know?
That's what I'm hoping to do with the Vallisneria, just because it's a taller thing. But yes, I'm definitely on board with that.
Every kind of Java fern, just every kind. Although narrow leaf is my favorite. And the banana plant's been doing really well.
Good.
And actually, I was surprised that, what is the red lily?
Like the dwarf aquarium lily?
Yes, the one that's red. It grows slow for me, but it grows well. Well,
that sounds perfect, because I'd rather have something grow slow and well than grow well but ridiculously fast, and I got to trim it every week. I'm lazy, though, but hey, So those of you that don't know, Gianne probably hasn't been on the channel in years.
A long time.
It's been a long time. I went to your house, that type of thing, but she's a beta judge and stuff like that. Are you doing any of that anymore? Is there any conventions you're like, I'm going to try to go to,
My goal is to go to Mexico for the International Beta Congress Convention. It's the first time that it's going to be held in Mexico next year. So that'll be at the tail end.
So in 2018?
Yeah.
And then what time of the year roughly?
End of June. So it's always the 4th week of June. So I'm excited because, I usually do some kind of professional development during the summer. So last year I did research with fish.
Book learning, yeah.
Well, no, I was doing research in Dr. Coleman's lab. He does cichlid research. And so I was working in his lab studying bettas. But, next summer is just, I'm free. I'm going to actually be here for a month.
Wow.
So, but yeah, that's going to be the next one for me because that summer it'll be free.
And so the Beta Congress convention, does it move to a different part of the world every year?
Usually it's different part of the country for Area 1. So
oh geez, this is getting technical.
It's getting
for Area 1. Is Area 1 North or just
North
America?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's I should know this. There's 8 or 9 areas.
Yeah.
The world's been divided up. Area 2 is Europe. Area 6 Southeast Asia. Oh boy.
And do they ever call you over hey, we want you to judge Area 6 instead of Area 2? Do they do we're going to get someone from Singapore to judge the American ones, and then we're going to get... Okay.
No, I judged a show in Germany in 2013. And that was really fun. I got to go to Germany and seeing the fish hobby in a different place, especially in Germany, which is the birthplace of fresh water, right? Hans Evers George and all that stuff. They take it so seriously, and it was amazing to judge there. And then I've been invited multiple times to judge down in Mexico because I can speak Spanish as well.
Oh.
But it's really difficult during the school year now because I'm a high school teacher, so I can't really say to my principal, I'm going to be gone for a week to go judge this fish show.
Right.
So maybe one day. But,
so we've got a few super chats lined up. Wushu Jimmy Brown says, Inglorious Bettas and Cory Betta live streams were some of the first fish videos they ever saw.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was back in the old studio.
That's a long time. Yeah,
that was the two-parter. Yeah, that was the two-parter where we went so long. It was supposed to be an hour. We went so long. We're like, that's got to be 2. That was a long time.
That was fun.
Yeah. And Trond Olav says, nice videos, hoping for shipping to Norway in 2018. Need plants, shirts, and stuff.
Norway. Nice.
Shipping to Norway. Oof.
That's I want to get stuff from Europe all the time because they got really good fish food. And,
oh, yeah. It's hard to get stuff, from Europe and to Europe. And especially, like, I don't want to get someone's hopes up, but there's way more of a chance of me shipping, like, a shirt, a hat, all that kind of stuff to Norway than there is a live plant. Because even when you buy, like, oh, that shipping's $100, it still might be like, yeah, it's still going to take 9 days to get there. So a hat melt on the way. Fine, exactly. So, but I do know that things like killifish eggs and that kind of stuff that you ship around, you're just like, yeah, let's hope they make it for 10 days, Well,
yeah, and customs, it's like that's an egg, usually in peat or some kind of soil-like material, which is a huge no-no. Just because of the agricultural part of it.
Yeah, and a super chat from Caroline Epler. No words, just $5. So thank you. So yeah, what is it that you officially? So you do all this learning, as I call it.
Learning.
And are you a microbiologist? Are you a genealogist? What are you? I always know you're doing something different every time I talk to you. But what are you officially? Are you trained as a teacher? Are you a scientist? Are you?
Yes, I've worn many hats.
Yeah.
Let's just say. So I went to UCSF. So that's University of California of San Francisco. And I did my graduate work there in microbiology and innate immunology. So I was a research scientist kind of all through undergraduate and graduate doing really, we call it basic research when you're at the lab with a pipette, moving clear liquids from one tube to the next and infecting animals and, anyway, disease models basically.
Okay.
And then now and then I became an adjunct professor. So I was teaching at the college level medical microbiology. And then now I am a high school teacher. I got my teaching credential. I had to go back to school for the third time. Never again. But I made it. And now I'm teacher of biology and marine biology right now. So.
Sweet. She was telling me about how she's got a bunch of kids interested in a fish tank in the classroom and all that kind of stuff. And what were some of the experiments? Like you said, you got accepted for like a grant or something like that for stuff you're going to try this year coming up.
So there's, we're going to do sea urchin embryology. So that's where you take sea urchins, you get adult male and female sea urchins, and then you can induce them to release their gametes or their sperm and egg. And then you can they're large enough that you can watch them under the microscope. You can watch them fertilize and then divide. And then hopefully, my hope, because of my background as a scientist, being able to do sterile technique and having fish tanks, is that we can raise them up to the sea urchin baby. So that's the goal.
I told her to take lots of videos so that way we can bring her back on and she can explain it.
Yeah, and if it worked or not.
Yeah. And
then what is the other one? Oh, yeah, trout in the classroom. So it's a really cool program. I actually did it when I was a child. The elementary school I went to here in Washington, we raised salmon and then released them into the lake. And we're going to do the same thing in my classroom. I got all the equipment, a chiller, which I wanted to ask you about. I got a chiller unit, and I've never, ever kept cold water fish before. So I'm going to have to turn my classroom into an ice cube, basically. And we're going to raise up these trout for 5 weeks and then release them.
And are your kids super into it? Because I feel like in high school, I just would not have been that into it. Like, are they into it? Because when I took biology, it was like, you have to take biology. And I was like, oh, this is horrible.
Yeah.
It was horrible. And yet now in my adult life, I love it. But is biology an elective for them? Or it's like, oh, no, they have to take biology?
So 9th grade biology is you have to.
Okay.
You have to take it in 9th grade and you have to take biology. And then marine biology is an upper level elective at my school. So juniors and seniors take it because they want to.
Okay.
And so Oh wait, continue.
Oh, I was going to say, so are both of those projects you're going to do, are they in the upper level or the bottom? Or not, I don't want to call it the bottom level, but like are ninth graders, or is it the elective class they're doing those? Or
We're going to do both of those projects in marine biology.
Okay, so everyone that's there like wants to be there. Okay.
But I mean, in my ninth grade biology class, we did this really cool experiment where they came up with, we were looking at the carbon cycle, and they came up with how they wanted to manipulate it. Like we had snails, freshwater ram's horn snails, and then we had anacharis. Is that how you pronounce it? Or anacharis or anacharis?
Well, I've always heard and said anacharis, but
yeah.
I'm not.
I'm actually not sure.
You have way more schooling than me, so anacharis. If someone else smart said that, I'd be like, yeah, it's anacharis.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's an anacharis, but anyway.
Yeah, I think it's that. I've heard that the most. So
it's like the beta thing, right? But anyway, and so the kids, like in these tubes, they had a pH probe, and when carbon dioxide gets dissolved into water, it turns into carbonic acid, which lowers the pH, and you can measure that.
Yeah.
And so the kids were manipulating that mini environment.
Yeah.
And they really liked it, and, so.
You should do that with like a planted aquarium, like.
Yeah.
Because they make the Milwaukee meters and all that, and you'd be like, look at this, we're going to inject CO2, and then you could be like, look, the plants are growing really well, and here's the carbonic acid, and.
The possibilities are really endless, and in the future, I really want to put killifish and bettas into the classroom.
Yep.
Because could you imagine like having a killifish egg and giving it to a child and then adding water and then just a fry like erupt in their hands? Like there's all sorts of things you can integrate. But the key, I think, going back to the original thing of engagement, like whether they want to do it or not, it's kind of like being a parent in that you don't want to force it on them. You have to like just kind of be there and be cool.
Right.
You don't
so you spend all night not working on the lessons plan. You're just like, how am I going to be cool tomorrow?
How is it going to be engaging, Because you don't ever want to force a child to like anything because they're going to smell it immediately.
Oh, yeah.
You just have to be there and be supportive and make it accessible, like not too difficult, but, difficult enough to be interesting. And, it's a balancing act.
So what's my school degree? I graduated high school with marketing honors. Turns out I'm pretty good at marketing stuff. And then I went to college and I dropped out of community college. I'm like 1 quarter away from being a certified network administrator, but I learned very quickly I don't interact well with people who don't understand computers. Like that was a bad situation for me to be in because I have very low tolerance of like, it's a mouse, like, because they put us in some of those situations and you would run into, and there were people in my classes that I was in that were like, they had lost whatever industry they were in, and like, I don't want to say the government, but someone was paying for them to be like rehabilitated to like learn a new industry. And they literally were like, I've never used a computer before. And it was like CIS 100. And you're just like, oh my God, this is, and then I started realizing that like, this is way more widespread than I thought. Like you're going to go to companies, they're going to hire people that don't know, like they were learning like Control C to cut and paste and all that stuff was like mind-blowing concepts. And I was like, oh, this is actually what my job will become. Like, yeah, there will be some network stuff, but it's mostly, the CEO guy that doesn't know computers wants to know how to, forward an email. Yeah, exactly. That kind of stuff. I'm like, oh, okay. So that was a wake-up call, but I had a really cool programming teacher that he kind of let us in on that, and he's like, look, that's what the job mostly is, and that his big thing was, anything I can teach you today is obsolete by the time you graduate, which was only like, a year from then.
Yeah.
So he spent lots of time teaching us how to be very efficient at Googling and things like that. So it'd be like, if you're looking for the answer, take the error code, then type in forum or type in Stack Exchange or Stack Overflow, and the right words to put with something into Google to get information that you weren't getting on the first searches. And so we did a lot of actually, the people that kind of were computer savvy, there was like 2 groups to that class. There was like, here's how to install Windows. And that was like what he was teaching people to do. And then it was like, here's the other people that knew what they're doing, like race to find the answer to this. And he would bring up problems because he was a teacher, but then he also programmed for companies and things like that on the side, where he would develop like software like I don't know, I was gonna say Best Buy, but like Blockbuster, like their video software where you're checking it out and that kind of stuff. And he'd be like, "You ran into this problem. How do you fix it?" I had to research all weekend to find it, and then it'd be like, "See how you can find it," because that's a real life problem that happened. Like, okay, you got to change the C++ code. How do you fix this?
That was an amazing teacher.
Yeah, he was
really.
super cool, and
Yeah.
I to this day I'm still like, why was he a teacher? He must have actually wanted to change people's lives, because he was making plenty of money doing his thing. But at the same time is I ran into him at that CIS 100 level. So he wasn't like, oh yeah, I'm going to teach you really in-depth programming. He was like the bottom level guy, which was super weird, but also was like the most impactful, and it steered me in the right direction, made me do what I do. And then the other good thing I got out of college is I took an elective for keyboarding, and so that's how, because I did that in high school and I did it in college. I was doing it because I like to game a lot, and typing faster was an advantage when it comes to playing games. And so now I average from unfamiliar text, 85, 90 words per minute. If it's just out of my head, it's even faster.
Yeah.
And so obviously that was a skill that I got out of college that whatever, all the money I paid for college, completely worth it at this point. So that was super cool. With all your knowledge, I've been waiting. Someone asked me, but I want to ask you, with all of your scientist knowledge, when a fish gets sick, does the microscope come out for you? Like at your home? Or is it just like, it looks like this, I'm going to treat it for that?
I do a lot of research as much as I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and maybe this is never, when's the last time you had a sick fish and maybe did like a scraping or something like that and put it under a microscope?
I've never done that.
Okay. I'm glad to hear
all
that.
All the fish that I'm trying to think the last time something major happened. Well, the picture I put on the
like the aquarium
on the Facebook group.
Yeah, the aquarium group support.
So,
which
it was really cute. One of my students, one of the fish in my classroom got sick. He just got really thin, and just from his presentation, it looked like emaciation and like internal parasites, because it wasn't my fish. It was like another teacher's fish that he gave to me, and he just kept getting thinner and thinner. I was like, oh, it must be internal parasites. I did not do an autopsy or anything, because in my head I was like, oh my gosh, how do I carefully get rid of this fish so the kids don't notice?
Yeah.
But I've never really done that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's people always ask me like, why don't you buy a microscope and do all these things? And I'm like, I don't think I'll actually make time to do it.
Exactly. It's a time thing, and then
it'd probably take you an hour to set up, look at it.
It's not that hard, actually. It's like I have the knowledge of like how to do a gram stain.
Right.
I could do one, but like
I think it would take me an hour.
Yeah, maybe.
A
gram stain's
it's
like
not like
15
I'm gonna walk
minutes,
over to the microscope station. I don't really have one like laid out. Or at school, you probably like, oh yeah, over on table 6, we have all the stuff to do it.
I mean, you can stain it with methylene blue. Yeah. Like, you have that in the fish room,
I do have that, yes.
Methylene blue is a really good staining agent. But honestly, again, it's like the time to do it. I'm not going to gain a lot of extra information from it. And if I do see something unusual, then I'll have to do a bunch of research into journals to try and figure out what it is. And I just kind of like hit it with general cure. Because it's probably, if I can save it that way, then I'll save it. If I can't, then I can't. So
sure.
Yeah.
So Ruby Killer says, how can you make wild plants safe for your fish? Also asks, hydra as pets? And then thank you for the help with Raleigh, my rescue puffer. We tried, but he didn't make it. So
it's like a 3-part.
Yeah. So we'll go with the first part is, how do you make wild plants safe? Now, first, I'll address that wild plants, in my experience, have been very hard to transition to an aquarium. And it's because when I go track it down. When
the plant.
When I go and I like get a plant out of a river, usually that river, at least in Washington, is way, way colder than my tropical aquarium. And so a lot of stuff just dies off from temperature shock. It's not meant to go that warm. But if you were in Florida or California, or there's probably places where that transition happens a lot easier. I think you would quarantine and then hit it with lots of medicines. I mean, not so much to kill the plants, but
I like how we both went.
Well, I haven't really done it, so it's like I'm going, okay.
The plant guy in San Francisco Aquarium Society, his name's Leon. He says that any plant that you get, put it in a tub with just tap water.
Yeah.
And to kill off anything.
Okay.
For like a couple minutes. But
Yeah.
San Francisco tap water is pretty nasty. It's
like a lot of chlorine.
Chloramine.
Chloramine,
We have
yeah.
chloramine.
Yeah.
Like chloramine will kill most things, I
Yep.
think.
We have very light chlorine here, so it might not be as effective.
Yeah, but he says tap water, but it might be regional depending on how
Yeah.
toxic it is.
I mean,
to
some people do chlorine
unwanted
dips, which
stuff. Yeah.
or bleach dips, I guess is what they're meaning, or alum dips and stuff like that. But it can be really hard on the plants. I think maybe a combination, if you have lots of chlorine or chloramine in your water like that, and quarantine, like so you're not bringing like a dragonfly nymph into the water
that
and
would
eats
be
a fish or
horrible.
something like that. So a little bit of precaution, I guess. And then you are the best guest I could possibly ask. Have you ever kept hydra as pets?
Yes.
I
as a
knew it.
child.
I knew it.
Sorry if I'm like breaking the microphone when I laugh. Yes, I did keep them as a child. They're fun. You feed them baby brine shrimp.
Where did you source hydra from?
Gosh, where did I? Because growing up in Washington State, you can all these parks are interconnected and there's ponds everywhere. And honestly, I think I just was like, I used to scoop up pond water everywhere and like grow it on windowsills and look at it with a microscope. And I saw these really crazy looking anemone things that turned out to be hydra. And if you just kind of keep them in the windowsill and feed them baby brine shrimp, they multiply like crazy. And yeah, I kept them in still jar, like 1 gallon pickle jars were like hot commodities.
Yeah.
So I bet you could keep them in a 1 gallon. I mean, I did.
Yeah. As a kid, not even as like a seasoned veteran aquarist.
No, they're cool. Just give them like little baby brine shrimp and they just.
Have you done any of that kind of stuff with the kids at school yet? Like,
not yet.
We're
no.
going to grab some water and then look at these weird things.
Oh, no, I did do that. That was fun. So all I had to do was squeeze out one of my sponge filters. Oops, sorry.
It's all right.
Right here. All I did was squeeze out one of the sponge filters in the classroom tank, and we looked at that, and that was really cool.
And was there lots of like ostracods and stuff, or like was there a lot of stuff?
There was all sorts of things in there.
Really?
Yeah, there was like I think I uploaded a short video on my channel. It's kind of buried now.
Yeah.
But it's just all sorts of like little,
We need to do that too. We need to have you back
so cool.
and like what's in a canister filter, and then like we can buy the equipment so we can record it, because I think that'd be fun, because I always think like, there's bacteria, but the reality is like a billion little micro critters.
There was like, I think the kids' favorite was like this worm that was like eating other things, like this huge. It was like a gigantic amoeba, but
right. But at the same time,
we also had an amoeba, by the way.
At the same time, invisible to the naked eye, right? Like had to have. Yeah. Okay.
It was these were all, but it was like gigantic on the micro scale.
Yeah.
But yeah, kids found tons of stuff, and there were ones that were zooming around, and it was crazy.
So I was talking about you within the last 2 weeks, but you're the only person I ever knew that. Well, and that's where I learned the word planarians, that you had kept planarians as well.
Yeah, planaria are fun. Yeah. Those ones you like suspend like a piece of raw meat into their tank.
Okay.
Into their jar, and then they'll like climb down on the string, right? You tie it with a stick and then a string and then the raw meat there, and then they'll like go along the surface tension and then crawl down, and then they'll like bleh, like a starfish, like their whole stomach comes out of a tube in their, comes out and digests the piece of meat there, and it's really cute because they get visibly fatter. So yeah, and you can
could you use that to get planaria like out of a shrimp tank and stuff? Like a lot of times we're like, how do we get planaria out of this without killing stuff? Could you do that kind of bait trap thing?
I fed them raw meat. I'm not sure if you'd want to put that in a fish tank.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But they were like super attracted to it, and they would immediately go to it. I don't know. Maybe there's too many competing food sources for that to work in a tank, though.
Oh, that could be.
Yeah. So I'm not sure. And then what if the shrimp get on the meat? Like,
Well, yeah, I was thinking about that. Like, well, aren't the shrimp
I
going to
don't
just be
think
like,
it's-
oh, steak,
yeah.
awesome.
It's not a highly selective bait option.
Yeah.
So-
All right. So yes, we got to do a whole series on like, here's little critters to put under a microscope or into a jar to get kids into the hobby.
It's fun, yeah.
Yeah.
So
No one. I always say that. I'm always thinking like, no wonder she became, like a biologist and doing all this stuff. Like, how old were you when you had your first like underwater critter?
underwater critter.
So like, whether it's at what point were you like, yeah, hydra, I need to have that as a pet.
Hydra.
Planaria, like that kind of stuff.
Gosh, it's really hard to remember. Like my grandfather, hopefully he gets to watch this stream.
Yeah.
My grandfather used to buy me books of like, the little science experiment books. And I used to go through and do them. But those are all like, nobody prints those anymore.
Right. They're extinct, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but he bought me a bunch of those, and I just kind of, I had a room in the basement of the house that we lived here in, and I just kind of turned it into my menagerie, my experiment lab thing.
Was I know your grandfather? Well, I think, was he into fish and stuff like that before you were, or did you get him into it? Okay.
No, and I don't know. Maybe my mom had a hand in getting me my very first fish tank. I do remember. When she used to clean the tank, this is horrific, right?
Yeah.
Used to like scoop the gravel out and put it in a colander and use detergent on it.
Hey,
we
you
didn't know.
got to do what you got to do. You're thinking, I'm doing good things. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So yeah.
I can't remember my first fish tank. So
No worries.
yeah.
Scared Wisp says, I have some rosette swords that are completely deficient and dying. They have flourished root tabs and aren't improving. I wonder if it's a lack of light and what kind of substrate do you have? If it's like really fine sand, it can compact and the roots can't get to the root tabs sometimes. But usually a bunch of nutrients right at those roots and sword plants go nuts. So that would be my thinking. Like, you're on the right path with root tabs, so I'm not sure. Maybe light? I mean, if you send more of that thing to email and a picture and that kind of stuff, I could help diagnose that a bit more, I think. 'Cause that's kind of that's a humdinger of a question. So.
I love how everyone's moms did the colander gravel detergent thing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we didn't know. What's a nitrogen cycle?
If you don't know, you don't know. I mean,
There's fish poop. Got to clean it.
my first thing ever, it's either between a betta that was in a brandy glass type of thing,
Yeah.
or it was sea monkeys. I think it was sea monkeys.
Oh, sea monkeys. Yeah.
I remember being really young, and I remember, in my mind, we're gonna say years for these sea monkeys to grow up, and then they were always sat right next to the like the kitchen sink, and one day they got knocked over, and I remember. Like, the sea monkeys were finally, like, big enough to see through the little magnification, like, bubbles that are on the little glass.
Yeah.
And then it got knocked over, and that was the end of Sea Monkey Town.
Oh,
Like,
no.
I don't think I was, like, super upset or anything, but I was just like, oh, yeah, oh, that's lame. It's over.
That
You know,
sucks.
that was a lot of, as a kid, might have been 2 months of time investment to be like, that's it? Oh, so maybe that's why I
Yeah.
didn't get into fish till later. So.
I think, now that I think about it, it might have been tadpoles that helped in the transition to fish,
You
So-
caught some.
Yeah, it's just because, like, I was running around all the time outside, and I just caught all sorts of things, and there are tons of tadpoles in the ponds out here. So I think
Yeah.
that was the first aquatic thing, and just like the amphibian, it kind of got me transitioned slowly into water. I don't know. So, what was that?
Oh, it just sucked in some air.
Oh, okay.
It's attacking you.
Tank is so much bigger in real life. It's
Yeah,
cool.
a lot of
It's
people
really
are like,
cool.
"Are you sure it's 800 gallons?" And I was like,
No, it's
"If you're in
huge.
person, you go, oh yeah, that's 800 gallons." But on video, you might be like, "I don't know, it doesn't look that big." Sure. We got a $20 super chat from Scurvy. Happy holidays to all. Rico, thanks for keeping my work days bearable and teaching us how to reef. Can't always chime in, but can't even begin to tell you how much I've absorbed. Well, that's awesome. We're, more and more. That's a good point. Do you do any salt water?
Nope.
Have you ever?
Nope.
Are you ever going to?
Well, I'm gonna try the sea urchins. Yeah.
Yeah, but like in your own personal, I want to keep these. Are you ever? Have you ever been like, yeah, maybe this weekend I'll set up a saltwater tank, or is it like always off the radar?
It's always been freshwater for me. Like I've never like thought about setting up a clownfish tank or anything. You know.
Maybe that'll be the catalyst. Like, well, if I'm teaching marine biology, maybe I should have a saltwater tank.
I did initially think that,
Yeah.
but then, it's interesting. Because it's really intimidating to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I was reading those really old TFH, the Tropical Fish Hobbyist magazines, the ones from the 70s that were really, really good, you know? And I'm reading it. They're talking about keeping seahorses in a fishbowl. Like literally, like a seahorse, like not a monkey, not a sea monkey, but a seahorse.
Like literal seahorses.
Like a literal seahorse in a fishbowl. And they're like, a 2-gallon fishbowl should be sufficient for one seahorse. And I'm like, how is this possible? Because now seahorses are like touted as being so fragile and requiring, and I'm sure they do. But it's like, the mentality around seawater has changed a lot. Oh, wait, no. I take that back. I have always wanted the hammers, the mantis shrimp.
Oh, yeah.
The peacock mantis shrimp. I have always wanted one of those. Yeah.
You should get one of those. That'd be super cool.
I just worry about them like smashing the the heater. Like,
yeah. But if you get a sump, the heater will be down in the sump.
Yeah. So I have always wanted one of those. And there's one at California Academy of Sciences, and I live really close to that. And that thing's really friendly. And it's cool to watch it grow up.
How do you know it's friendly?
Because it like comes out.
It says hello.
And then it'll.
Okay.
Not to, what is the word? Anthropomorphize things?
Yeah. I don't know if it's anthropomorphize or if it's personify. I always think I say I personify things, but yeah. But you should do that so I can live vicariously through your saltwater tank. That
would be cool. Yeah. I do want one of those one day. So.
Oh, here's a good question while you're here. What is the worst supervirus you've dealt with? My fish have mycobacteria, and I have to euthanize, disinfect, and throw away everything. The worst one I had was Hank the Mubu puffer got. And that was, there's no known cure, and the answer was like, well, at that point, it was a necropsy being done, so it already died, but the answer is like, yep, euthanize, death, sterilize, with mine, it didn't have to be sterilized. You just had to turn the heat up a bunch because on that specific strain, it really became, what is the correct word? Virulent?
Virulent?
Yeah, virulent. However you say that word. In colder water.
Virulent,
the cooler the water was, the more aggressive it was. So the answer was crank the temperature and it wouldn't have been a problem. But at the same time, I couldn't have known that because we had no idea what was wrong, and they found that afterwards, and it basically made all these lesions on like the liver and the heart, and it slowly taxed the system. And so that was the worst one. It didn't like run through the whole fish store or anything like that, so I was lucky in that aspect. But that's the worst one I've dealt with.
Wow.
Have you dealt with any like, oh, now that I've got that in my fish room, that's a super bad problem?
No, but it is funny, like it's funny and sad that it had mycobacteria. So marinum, Mycobacteria marinum is the fish version, and I used to work with that in the lab. Like I worked in a tuberculosis lab, and we would use Mycobacteria marinum as a sorry, my words are not coming. I'm in holiday mode.
Yeah, you're on vacation. Yeah, we're not judging you.
Yeah, we used to use it as a model, a disease model, and I would do experiments with it at work, and I was terrified of bringing it home because a plate of marinum, like that has more than enough organisms to kill everything in that in your fish room back there. Like if I brought in a plate of that in here, like it would just. So I was always terrified. So after going to work, I would hot water everything, disinfectant everything, wouldn't touch anything until I'd done all of that. But at home, it's Velvet. Velvet took out my
because you have bettas and it'll
soft
run
water
through
fish.
them.
Yeah, I have a lot of soft water fish, and Velvet. I was really lucky it didn't spread, but it really killed some beautiful, beautiful fish.
If you haven't seen the bettas she's shown and won competitions and awards with, she does have amazing fish. I don't know if you currently do, but you did at the time. I don't know if you still are that into it or not.
So my domestic bettas I've given to one of my friends, and he's working with the line right now, my CTPKs. And my hope is that I do return to the domestic side of things. But right now I have my betta rubra, and my killifish. I really needed fish that can kind of colony breed and take care of themselves right now because I'm focusing on teaching.
So I've thought of another perfect question while you're on the show because you've got science. I get asked this all the time, and my response is always, I've never seen it really happen. I don't worry about it. But the question is, how often or how much should we be worried that our fish can get, or no, how scared and how prevalent is it for our fish disease to transfer into human disease?
Yeah, zoonosis.
Yes, that word.
It's more common than you think. So, and for me, I'm a nail biter. So if you look at my hands, they're covered in sores, basically. Just it's a nervous habit.
Sure.
And
to be fair, you didn't see them. It's not like her hands are out of control.
It's like high def.
She's talking like micro abrasions here,
But a microabrasion is more than enough for,
Yeah.
And I don't want to like freak people out, but it is more common than people.
So my question is this: how many people do you know
personally?
Yes.
And that's the funny thing, right? There's kind of a stigma associated around getting it. So every person that's told me that they've gotten it has never wanted me to tell anybody else that they got it.
Right.
Because it's like this, dirty, unclean.
Okay. Well, you don't have to say their name, but like.
Well, I'm not going to.
Of people's, you're like, I know 2, or is it like I know
4
700?
people that have gotten it. And they've had to get antibiotic treatment for it. And these are people that are pretty serious hobbyists.
So they're hobbyists, or are they like science, like lab people that are having?
Oh, lab people. Thankfully, I haven't met any lab people that have gotten infected with what they work with. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
But hobbyists, I know of 4 people personally that have contracted marinum on their hands. Usually, it forms like granulomas in the hands. So granuloma is like a lesion, or the hand gets. Actually, 5 people. Now that I think about it. Which, that's a significant number.
I mean, that's definitely more than my number of 0. Do you think they tell you because you're like, oh, she's science. She knows this thing.
They're like, what is this? My hands, the doctor said I had this.
Yeah, do they come to you because they're like, yeah, science person and fish person, they'll know more than my doctor.
I know. It's like, the doctor said this and they said this. Can you tell me more? And it's like, yeah, that's what they do. So like the bacteria works itself into the hands. They like being in hands because the temperature is lower. So marinum prefers to be cooler than core body temperature. And it's, so they stay in the extremities, or that means like the tips of your fingers, and then they get like it's like sore, and sometimes it's hard to move your hands and then the bacteria like walls itself. It gets in there, and then it like walls itself. Yeah, it walls itself in, which is why it's so hard to treat, and why you have to treat it for so many months with different kinds of awful antibiotics.
So that was the thing I was going to ask, is like, one, on the scale of things to contract, how bad is it? Is it like, oh yeah, you're going to have to take some pills for like 6 months? Or is it like, yeah, left unchecked, that's going to kill you in a year? Or is it just like, no, you're going to go to the doctor, they're going to keep prescribing like amoxicillin and things, and then... And is it curable? Is it one of those things like, oh, now you'll never have it again, or do you carry it forever?
Oh, no, it's curable. Marinum is curable. That's the mycobacteria for fish.
Yeah.
It's curable. It takes a long time, 6 to 9 months of like 3 or 4 different kinds of medication that are nasty. Like antibiotics kill both good and bad bacteria, so you're going to get diarrhea and stuff.
Yep.
And then if it's left unchecked, like... One of my friends, the hand gets messed up. Like you use your hands so frequently.
Yeah.
So if you lose one of your fingers and you can't like bend it, like it can really be difficult to type or to move and manipulate things. So
to circle back around, like, do you only wear gloves when you're in your aquariums with plants and that kind of stuff, or is it like, oh, when I'm done, I wash my hands? Like, what is your level of comfort in your aquariums?
So if I'm going to be in the fish tank for a while, like I'm
Uh-huh.
cleaning it, I'll wear gloves. If I'm not, if it's like a quick, oh, I need to grab something,
Uh-huh.
then I'll just wash my hands after, But for me, I have a lot of microabrasions. I have a lot
Right.
of, little holes in my hands that these things can get into.
Yeah.
If you don't bite your nails and you don't have like any open sores, then you're fine. Your skin is really, really a great barrier. You have
That's
multiple
good.
layers on your hands.
Yeah.
And you'll have additional like surface oils that protect your hands. And as long as you wash your hands, you're fine.
Okay.
I go the extra mile because I bite my fingers.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you're immunocompromised, you may want
Right.
to be a little bit more careful. So like my grandfather uses the big long
Yeah,
gloves, so.
That's good because I think there's a lot of what I call fear mongering online. Like all of
Yeah,
a sudden
don't
there'll be like an
be-
article of like someone got sick and now we need to be terrified of our aquariums. And then like what I love about talking with you is that you're like, well, yeah, science happened, but let me tell you about the other science of like how your body is made to already defend itself versus this,
Yeah,
So it's not like,
yeah.
because for the last 20 minutes I'm going, oh my God, I need to stop
I
touching
know,
aquarium
right?
water. Now I'm like, oh yeah, I'll be fine. I got these things called skin cells and there's oils and there's, stuff, that's because I'm always like, my hands are in an aquarium every day, all day long for the last 12 years, and I've never had a problem. So it just
Yeah.
means that my skin cells and whatever are on point at the
Well,
moment.
and your immune defenses too.
Right.
Like,
So yeah, I'm
we-
reasonably fighting it off.
You're fine.
Yeah.
I'm of the, having been an immunologist for part of my life, it's just like, I'm of the camp, throw your kids in the dirt. Like, get
Yeah.
them out there, seriously. Your immune
Expose
system.
them to stuff.
Your immune system is so powerful, so you're fine.
Yeah. We got a $20 super chat from. Ooh, this is. I don't know if I can pronounce this correct, so I'm going to apologize before trying to pronounce the name. Do you know how to pronounce that name?
Which one?
It's.
There's so much stuff here.
Oh, it's in a big orange thing. If you click on
no,
it.
I don't.
Yeah.
I really need to work on.
Hasai Lun Chen. I apologize. I'm horrible at that. First time able to join the live stream. Just want to say I can always find answers in one of the podcasts. Both me and my wife are big fans. Hope one day you'll ship to Australia. Thanks for everything and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Yes, indeed. We got the 8-hour live stream coming up on Monday. So if you're waiting for, that awkward time where the kids and your family got up, did their presents, it's now 8:45 and like nothing else is going on till 11. We'll be live. You can chime in for an hour and a half, and then, after you eat your first dinner with your first family at 2, and then you got to
dinner.
drive 2
like
hours to the
hobbits.
next family. You can listen to us on the road, and then, so we'll be in there to fill the gaps on your Christmas, and we'll have a bunch of sales and stuff like that going. I do hope to ship to Australia one day, but like we were saying earlier to, I think it was Norway, it's difficult to get stuff outside of the U.S. in a timely manner without costing $1 billion and making everyone happy. My goal is that people are happy and not just like, well, yeah, it eventually came. It only took 2 months. I'm trying to do something a little bit better than that. So
Yeah, I'm seeing just a couple things. So
Sure.
Marinum is a bacteria. So
Yep.
tuberculosis also human. All mycobacteria are bacteria. And then it's ubiquitous. So that means it's everywhere. So you can find Marinum everywhere. It seems to be, it'll be more highly concentrated in tanks that have fish that carry it or have active disease, because of course that's when they're reproducing and getting into
So
the
that's
water
a
column
good
and
point.
stuff. But it is everywhere.
So if my aquarium, like let's say my fish are sick in the aquarium, am I at more risk to contract something than if it's just my aquarium is fine? Now I know that seems like, well, there's gonna be more things going on, but in theory, my hands and my immune system haven't changed. So am I really at more risk than?
So there is something called hold on. There's a lot of acronyms microbiologists use, but
Yes.
one of them is all I can think of is minimum inhibitory concentration, but it's minimum infectious. Oh my goodness.
Science
Anyway,
words.
Science
Yes.
words,
Yep.
yes. So basically, every kind of infectious agent, we'll say, has like a minimum number that can get them sick. So it's like when we do things in the lab, we'll like give one mouse 200 of them, another mouse 800 of them. And of course the mouse that got triple the dose is going to get sick faster and you know, whatever. And so
so it's one of those, if the aquarium's sick, odds are going up.
Odds are going up.
I could get sick.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So maybe a decent line of logic for the general mass hobby here is, if your aquarium, if you have sick fish, you are more at risk. Now, it's not like you went from 0% to 90% chance, but maybe you're at 17% now instead of 2.
It's hard to put a number on it because each, for example, 200 Shigella will give you terrible, terrible diarrhea, but 200 E. coli, you're going to need like way more E. coli to get that same amount of sick. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There's like each one. And then tuberculosis, like human tuberculosis, you can get sick from one bacteria.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy how infectious it is.
Because I know, like,
so
if I'm being honest,
to say. Yeah.
I touch dead fish all the time.
like
well, like on a Monday, let's say we ship in 2,000 fish from all around the world, and then you're putting the fish into the tanks. A lot of times, if it's like small, let's say it's small neon tetras and they're like this big, a net, you pick up 40 live tetras and you're trying to get one dead one, so I just use my hand.
Yeah.
And it's way more efficient, way more timely, and then, you know, you get rid of the bodies, you wash your hands and that type of stuff, but, you know, it would be reasonable to think like, oh, I'm at more risk, and I can say that at this point, I've been doing that for many, 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 many years, and I can't notice any causation. Like, maybe, for all I know, maybe, you know, oh yeah, 7 years ago when I had diarrhea, it was from the neon tetras. Who knew? It wasn't, you know, the random food I ate or something like that. But so far, it's never been traceable back to that.
Yeah.
But I do think it's a good wisdom to be like, if your fish are sick, take more
extra
precaution.
Yeah.
You know, so if you were a person like me that never wears gloves, maybe I'd wear gloves when there's a bunch of sick fish. But I've seen people read one article and then go straight to, like, let's say where your grandpa is, where it's like the full gloves, and like they're doing all these crazy things, full face masks and all that stuff. I'm like, that just makes the hobby actually a lot harder.
Yeah, again, it's, you know, it's risk and numbers and all that stuff.
My thing I always told people is like, if we're really concerned about risk, don't drive a car. I'm way more likely to get in an accident than I am to pick up probably something from my fish tank.
Yeah, way
I would
more.
think. So, you know, you got to put it in perspective of like, there's risk everywhere. I mean, for right now, this monitor I'm looking into could explode and make me go blind. I mean, there's literally risk on everything around us all the time.
Yes. Well, my favorite is like when people are afraid of flying. It's like, yes, that's a primal fear being up that high, but it's like if you look at the number of accidents per 1,000 of cars versus flying, it's like, you know. That's
actually how I fly is like I'm just like a warrior when it comes to flying, because I'm like, the odds, like it's like I have a better chance of winning the lotto than this plane having a problem, and I'm not winning the lotto, so I'm pretty sure I'm not having a problem. So yeah, that's how I get through. It's mental fortitude of, oh, I looked at the things, now I understand, and it'll be what it'll be. You know, the odds are that. So
and I do love, like, so I was keeping count while you were talking about this. Yeah. You touched your face 3 times.
Yeah.
You know, it's like like you can't, like, there are things that you do that you're unaware of that could be putting you in more risk. Like if you touch your face, like you touch something sick, you shake hands like with someone who's sick, and then you touch the mucosal passages, like it's gonna go like right there. Yep. So there are
I focus on
a
wicked good immune system. That's what I focus on. I train it daily.
Yeah.
All right, we're coming to the end of the show, and there's a couple more super chats I want to hit on just so that they get their acknowledgement and wrap it up, because I know you got stuff you got to do, and I know there's other people coming to the studio today. But Daryl Dimer with the $20 super chat, he's always here supporting us, and I've been watching him support other YouTubers as well. This gentleman, I can't say more good things about him. He's out there just making things happen. Super good guy. Met him in Chicago. He says, enjoying the live stream, and Merry Christmas to everyone. Yes, I hope we all have a good time. Hopefully there's Aquarium Co-op presents under the tree. If not, Santa's getting a talking to. Caroline Epler, another all-star when it comes to support of everything that I'm doing, or Corvus, or the Real Fish Talk Show. Love the show. Thanks so much with the $20 super chat. Thank you for showing up, everyone. We had 675 people hanging out.
Wow.
Yeah, to talk about science stuff and fish stuff and plants. We
started
with plants. We started with plants, but I was like, man, these questions have been coming up, and it's hard to get you here because you already explained you got to do all the school and all that kind of stuff, so it's hard to get you in the studio. But we'll get you again, and we'll really go into, we'll have video, and we'll have like, look at that weird looking thing. You remember I said that giant amoeba? That's what this thing is. So we'll be live for 8 hours on Monday, and I wanted to bring this episode. I think was a very good example of what we're trying to do on the Real Fish Talk channel. So yeah, we started out talking about plants, and then my brain realized, oh man, with microbiology and that kind of background, these types of questions can be answered with someone with more knowledge than I have on the subject. And we went down that path. And that's what we want to do, is we want to, me and Joel, have people like Gianne on the show, ask me these questions. You guys chime in with questions. And then we all leave going, okay, wearing gloves, not touching anything ever again. But you know, I think there's definitely a lot more light on that subject than I had 2 weeks ago of like, I mean, it didn't change what I'm going to do. I'm still going to be like, I got 12 years of my immune system's been battling it off just fine. But for other people that are new to the hobby, at least they can go, okay, well, you know, I'm going to take this precaution for right now. And then 54 Punchy's asking from the show yesterday, and I was asking you earlier today, the correct term for a freshwater marine biologist? She didn't know either. She's going to ask around.
Marine is anything produced or to do with the sea.
Yeah.
So it's not marine biologist.
Yeah. So she was going to, you know, see if she couldn't, like, who knows the answer to this, but that'll be one of those. Yeah.
I don't know.
Because I was asking if someone, like, if you go to school, can you major in it? Is there like some kind of weird, I don't want to call it weird, but like, you know, oh yeah, you can go saltwater or freshwater, or is it always you have to get your degree in marine biology and then you go like just self-learn in freshwater? So
aquatic biologist.
Yeah, we want to just get to the bottom of that, and that'll be fun, and hopefully we'll get an aquatic biologist or whatever they are on the show.
That would be cool.
And be like, cool. How did you become one of those?
Like Dr. Coleman, so he was the lab I was in last. He calls it was the freshwater ecology lab. So that's what he calls himself.
So is he a freshwater?
Well, he studies cichlids. He studies cichlids.
Okay.
So, you know, he's a he calls himself a freshwater ecologist.
All right.
So, but he studies cichlids. So.
Yeah, we'll get to the bottom of it eventually. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff to explore, and that's the goal. So if you haven't already, go over to Real Fish Talk, subscribe. This episode is pretty much, you know, the template of another show. It's what we do over there. We get on tangents, we have fun, but we still like talk about fish, and we do things, and we go where the conversation leads us. And even though we started about plants, I feel like we learned a little bit about plants and a whole lot about mycobacterium and things like that, which that was super useful, but I didn't know that's where we'd start today.
Yeah.
So you never know where it's going to lead you. So.
And then like where we were before and all that stuff. Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe next time she'll talk about bettas because she's wicked into that. There's her channel. I'll be honest, you're not posting as much as you used to because you're busy. But every once in a while she sneaks out a video, and you do hang out in the aquarium group support,
I do.
which I've only ever mentioned that like once before on the show. That is the Aquarium Co-Op Facebook group. There's over 7,000 people. You got to answer questions to get in. We're purely only there to help other people. We're very strict that if you are derogatory or demeaning to someone else, we just get rid of you. And so it's not the goal to have 70,000 people. We could do that. The goal is to have as small a group as possible that are all super friendly and wanting to help each other. And I think that harbors a different community of people, of like maybe Gianne wants to hang out there because it actually is a safe place, and you don't have to worry about oh, people are fighting and all that kind of stuff, because you could just go to school for that, you know. So like oh, people aren't getting along, dang it. So, you know, it's trying to be the refuge from daily life and talk about fish and have a good time there. So aquarium group support, if you want to get in. I'm sure my mods are going, oh God, it's flooding right now. But if you don't answer all 3 questions, for sure you won't get in. And people go, I don't get it, I didn't get in. You didn't answer the 3 questions. They're really easy. Takes you less than 5 minutes. And that's the first test. If you can't agree to be helpful, let us know what kind of tanks you have and that kind of stuff, well, that's the minimum entry to interact with other human beings. So thanks for hanging out. Make sure you show up on Christmas and buy all of my stuff, so that way I don't have to do a ton of inventory and I can just make videos instead. And thank you to all the super chatters, and thank you to Gianne for coming out. And we will, well, I was going to say we will definitely have you back, but she would have to agree to that. But I will be trying to get her back sometime in the future when it makes sense for her. It sounds like in the summer you got a whole month here, so
yes, summer
that
I'll
seems
be
we might be able to get 1 or 2 episodes in.
That would be fun.
So.
Yeah.
All right, guys, have a great, probably 3 or 4 day weekend. You guys, most of you have. I know a lot of people got Friday off, and they're getting Monday off, and maybe even get Tuesday off. I'm jealous. I'll be working, but I'll be having fun, and I hope you guys will be too.